Hello and welcome to the HQ Movie Review. I'm Jack.
I'm Josh.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Heather.
And this week we watched Hidden Figures. Right off the bat, have you guys seen this movie before?
No.
Never.
I'd seen it once before.
Yeah, I've seen it. I saw it in theaters because, I was obligated to.
Okay.
No, but it's a good movie.
Now, I didn't know this movie existed until last year, which is when I watched it.
I didn't know it until I got added to the wheel.
Wait, this movie came out in 2016?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
This movie is older than you thought it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the exact same thought process I had after I'd seen it. I thought it had come out like the year before. No,
I thought this movie came out in 2018.
Nah.
I was wrong. Interesting.
Yep. So, Hidden Figures, the true story of the women who got us to space, or helped to get us to space, with NASA's help.
Is it help? Did NASA help them?
No.
It paid them money to do the math they did. I think that counts for something.
I feel like NASA fought them at every step.
It did hinder them more than help.
It, at best, enabled.
Like, there were individuals at NASA that helped them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But NASA as an organization, not really.
No.
They kind of just had to help themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the story so inspirational. I think before we go any further, we should preface this. Josh is dying,
Yes.
so that's why he sounds like he's melting right now. He's not.
Good old sinus infection.
Yeah.
Hey.
But we wanted 4 people for this podcast, so here he is.
Yay.
All right, you're good, buddy. We're almost there. If I keep saying it, it'll eventually be true. So, right off the bat, not a lot of funny japes and jokes to be made about this.
It's definitely not a comedy-centric movie.
No, it is the relatively true retelling of 3 black women in the 60s. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just really highlights just how bad it was and also how recent.
yeah, Katherine Johnson was alive last year.
Katherine Johnson was the only one of the 3 shown in the movie to see the movie come out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But still, that's kind of crazy to think
Yeah.
about. Like, this is the kind of stuff that was happening not even that long ago.
Yeah. It has been less
Yeah.
than one entire human lifetime. Speaking of which, I want to talk about, just starting at the beginning of the movie, the cop that pulls them over and is about to be racist until he finds out they work for NASA, and then he's like, hold on, I love America more than I want to be racist. I need to help you. I need to help you help us to beat the commies.
That probably is exactly what he went through in his head, is what do I hate more?
Yeah.
There's even a moment where he turns around and is like, hold on, let me think with this with my little pea brain.
Like, you can see the cogs turning in his head. He's like, I could continue being racist, but I do want to get us to space first.
And then they don't even get to space first.
They don't. That is one of my favorite things about the space race. We lose every single part of that race until we get to the moon, and then we declare it's over.
Hey, the finish line is what matters.
Yeah.
And if you can dictate when the finish line happens, all the better.
Exactly.
If there's anything this movie has proven, it's that America is good at moving the goalposts.
Wow. And so true that it hurts.
Yeah, this is the energy we're coming to this episode with.
Also, speaking of the whole police interaction at the beginning, it just reminded me of how upset that I was with literally everything that had to do with their car.
Yeah, that's actually my next note. Josh, real upset about the car.
I can't describe just how much I was upset by. First of all, they're stuck on the side of the road and they claim it's a starter. And what if it truly was a starter? What were they doing? Stopped with the car off on the middle of the road, because a starter only affects when you're starting the car. Thus, the term starter.
Well, I mean, like, a starter Pokemon is with you for your entire journey, unless you're, like, a horrible person.
Yeah, but Jack, if you just, like, stop halfway through your Pokemon journey, do you need to go get a new starter?
Well, I mean, I try to get all 3 anytime I play, but...
Yeah, but... Okay, and then the other thing. The other thing was... The resolution of this was... Hold on, let me just bypass the starter, and then the engine starts. What did you do?
She tapped it with her magic wand.
What?
Was that not clear?
Like, for real, the only way you're starting a car without the starter is if you push start it. And that involves someone getting out back and pushing the car. And someone in the driver's seat dropping the clutch. And that definitely did not happen.
Honestly, I don't know enough about cars to really try and explain what happened, but she did just kind of poke the engine with, like, a thing.
Yeah.
And then it sparked, and then the car started. Like, no one was even in the driver's seat. She just kind of touched it with, like, a stick. It wasn't a stick. It was a metal
It was like
thing.
a wrench.
It was a metal rod of some kind.
It was a rod of some... It didn't look like it. It was, like, sharp at the end.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a sideways wrench. I don't know. But
See,
either way,
here's
she
the
just
thing,
kind of
Jack.
taps it, and then it starts. I think that was actually magic.
Here's the thing, Jack. I do know enough about cars to be 100% upset at what they did to these genius women. Like, they did all the research on, like, all the different formulas that they needed for this movie, all the different orbital mechanics, Euler's method, all of that, and they couldn't come up with any kind of reasonable excuse for why their car broke down.
I can confirm, according to IMDb, they hired someone who had a PhD in astrophysics to make sure all the equations were correct.
Someone they hired someone with a PhD in astrophysics, not a car mechanic.
I also, IMDb gives a list of all the goofs, and I can confirm that it says even if the starter was faulty, it would not be the cause for them being stranded.
Well, there you go.
Among other things. Also, you can't bypass it. There's everything in the first, like, 5 minutes
Tapped it
is
with her
wrong.
magic wand.
Everything in the first 5 minutes is wrong, both, like, just factually, morally, spiritually.
Hang on.
Whoa,
everything.
Whoa.
You took some serious offense to this car thing.
I mean, also the cop being racist thing, but
Yeah,
also
that's fair. Okay, good point.
everything about the first 5 minutes was just... I'm sitting there in pain with the sinus infection, and it made me... I had to get up and just be vocal about my absolute hatred of this. But anyway, going on to the main part of the movie.
Are you sure you don't have any more?
Oh, I have plenty, but
Okay, that's.
I think we're good.
You're right. We can move on.
I'm crying.
I do want just one solid audio file of just Heather for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was nothing but laugh tracks. Heather, do you have something you want to share with the class?
I'm just laughing at how just so angry Josh is.
Yeah,
So angry it hurts.
he is the Red Lantern of the group.
So good. So we have like 3 different storylines for the 3 different, main characters here.
Right.
And I mean, you have one who's, obviously the main character, who's
Yeah,
You know.
Catherine is clearly like the central figure of
who's,
the hidden figures.
who's the computer, which at first, I'll be honest, was like a real weird title. When I first saw it, I was like, they're calling them computers. That's kind of weird
Well,
and dehumanizing. And then I realized, like, oh yeah, this is obviously before the age of, computers.
yeah, it's actually not
And
dehumanizing.
it's
They're
just
computing. That's what they do.
It's just a title. It's like, yes, you compute things. That makes sense. It's not actually that bad. Colored computers, that's bad.
Yeah, no,
But
the colored computer is
title
fine.
computer, not bad. But and then you've got, I can't remember.
Their names are Catherine, who's the main character,
Yep.
Dorothy, who wanted to be the supervisor, and then Mary.
Mary.
Who's the engineer.
That's the one I was trying to think of, was Mary. She just wants to be an engineer, which that's after my own goals as well. So I totally
You
see
relate.
that. I definitely did not have nearly as many problems.
No, not exactly the same hurdles.
Not completely different hurdles here. In fact, none. But that's another story.
I'm sure the engineering, like specifically just the engineering hurdles.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I dropped out of that track.
You know,
a year in.
engineering probably was a lot harder back then.
It absolutely was a lot harder. Do you know how much I used the calculators for, which they didn't have?
Well, they had those big typewriter-looking things. Technically, that was the calculator.
That is not a calculator. That is an advanced abacus.
You're not wrong.
I mean, an abacus is just a really simple calculator. So, who's the real hero?
Yeah, you're not doing sine of 30 degrees on that.
Well, clearly you're using the abacus wrong.
So yeah, this is back in the days of slide rules.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a math teacher in middle school who knew how to use a slide rule, and he was proud of that. And I'm like, no one cares anymore.
I mean, no one cares, but also you should be proud of that.
I mean, also he's a math teacher.
Yeah, but
It's still, it's like ancient technology at this point. But yeah, so she's trying to be this engineer, and obviously the actual engineers respect her opinion.
Yeah, she actually had the least barrier to entry of the three women. It's everyone she worked with is oh yeah, no, they specifically requested you. They're they care about your advice. That was kind of a dick move. They're hey, we're testing this wind tunnel thing, and you're still in there. We're not gonna stop the countdown though.
Yeah.
Leave your shoe. Leave your shoe that got stuck in the grate.
At the time that was happening, I was like, oh wow, they're all just asshats. But based on the interactions we see later in the movie with those same people, I imagine they probably just couldn't shut it down.
I mean, that's possible.
The fan, I could think of a reason why you couldn't just spin down a giant fan.
He's a very big fan,
I
and
mean, but they did immediately do that.
yeah, that is also true. They're hey, this thing failed, shut it down, and then he flips one lever and shuts it down.
I mean, there might also be other there might be it might be a long setup process for redoing the experiment. So if they had already initialized the startup sequence, it would have been a huge hurdle to stop it. I'm sure if she got stuck in there legitimately and they had to shut it down, they could have. Obviously they could have. They weren't going to let her die if she got stuck in there.
Yeah, it's a real bad first impression for these guys.
Yeah.
It was absolutely a bad first impression. And who knows, maybe they were just being assholes about it. But based on the interactions we see later in the movie, it seems like they were just, being well, you better hurry up and get out of there. We're not going to shut it down unless we absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they were completely in her corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lead engineer guy was hey, yeah, no, you can definitely he was actively encouraging her to do this.
Yeah. Which, funnily enough, I don't think she's I think she's the only one who didn't actually achieve her goal by the end of the movie.
They showed her graduating?
Yeah, but we ran out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She graduates, but there's a huge hurdle in actually getting that job, though.
Yeah, we didn't have time for that in the movie. We got
Yeah.
the epilogue. Hey, this is what happens.
Believe me, as someone who's graduated engineering, there's a bigger hurdle of getting an engineering job.
Well, see, I think the implication is that she had an engineering degree, but there were specific courses needed to enter the specific engineering training program they had.
Yeah. And they denied her because she didn't have the classes, but they can still deny her because of other reasons.
Yeah, I mean, you both have a point. Like, she definitely did already have... The only thing keeping her out of that job position was that they saw she applied, and like, well, we need some reason for her not to be able to get it. So they added these extra courses.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, like, she definitely was then, like, the most eligible person for the job. But also, there's nothing stopping them from just being like, oh, well, we've added some more courses.
Yeah. Well, they went, everyone else who's applied has come from this very specific college. Let's make it where if you didn't go to that college, then you have to take supplementary courses. No one else does. So everyone else who went to a different college needs to go to this high school
Yeah.
and take classes there, which is wild to me.
They're AP classes.
Yeah.
AP classes that are graduate level in engineering.
Yeah. It was just wild. But yeah, it was weird that, hers seemed to be the only story that really didn't get a full conclusion. She made really a lot of progress, getting into the school in the first place. But Dorothy got her, promotion to supervisor. Catherine obviously went on to calculate for, the Apollo missions. But she's the only one who wasn't shown on screen, becoming an engineer.
Yeah.
I feel like her big battle was with the law.
Oh, yeah.
Being
Yeah.
allowed to actually go to the school at all.
So it's...
Yeah.
They still gave her an arc that was completed, which is nice. It just wasn't, the full arc.
Yeah. It just got a little truncated at the end, which is, it was fine. If we could get, an extended cut that's,
I mean, listen,
3 minutes longer.
It's nice that these three people's lives lined up so, nicely at the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. We got 2 out of 3 they have their success around the same time. We can fit that into a movie. The third one is we get most of it. Not to jump into Hamilton randomly, but they had to fudge so much stuff to make anything in the musical work.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of that stuff didn't happen. Hamilton does not meet his 3 friends all at the same time.
Yeah.
So according to the IMDb, there was the scene here where Catherine is screaming about how she has to run halfway across campus to go to the bathroom, and she can't even drink from the same coffee pot and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Mary was the one who actually screamed about that, but it wasn't about the bathrooms, it was just about the coffee pot.
Oh.
And that's what led to her getting her position with the engineering group.
Interesting.
And what's more interesting is that she had been using the women's restroom that was in that building that was supposed to be segregated, but she didn't know.
Oh.
Well, there's no sign.
Yeah, it just said ladies' restroom.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's one of the things where you're adapting the live stories of people. You're well, some things we're just going to shift around for poetic reasons.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's not a super major change, it's...
Yeah.
I feel like it is a little weird that they assigned it to a different person, but...
Well, it makes the story flow better. That's the thing about biographical movies.
Yeah. So Sheldon
Cooper is just here, and nothing has changed.
He's still an asshole,
He's just Sheldon.
but now he's a racist asshole.
Arguably, I think this character had more character development than Sheldon does in The Big Bang Theory.
He absolutely did.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
absolutely did. I will say at the very end, he's not good yet. He's getting better.
Yeah, he has not come around to his inherent prejudices, but he's I'll drop you off a coffee. I'll pick up the things. I won't say mean things.
Yeah.
He's growing.
I won't just immediately discount you.
Yeah.
I'll let you have your name on the paper. Mine's still front and center though.
Yeah.
It's still the 60s.
Yeah.
I do have to say, Harrison, great.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he only cares about them getting the job done.
This man is all business
He-
in the best possible way.
He does not care who does it. He doesn't care how they do it. He just wants it done. And he's like, well, you did it, so cool. Do this now.
Yeah.
Also, I just love his introduction from everyone else was, hey, don't say anything. He's a hard ass. Like, just don't try to, like, just keep your head down. Don't get in his way, and just you'll be fine. And then you actually meet him, and it's just like, oh, he's just a hardworking dude.
Yeah, he's real goal oriented, and if you're not goal oriented, he's like, well, it's not gonna work. Sorry.
Yeah. And also, I just love his, like, yeah, he's a hardworking, boss to, like, he's hard to please, and he expects a lot from his employees, but also he expects a lot from himself. And, like, one of the key things is when he, like, right after Russia gets their first, manned flight, he comes back and tells everyone, like, hey, we're not getting paid anymore, but we're gonna have to stay late and we're gonna have to get this done. All of you need to, like, let your families know that you're gonna need to do this. If you want to leave, I totally get it. You're fine, but we can't keep you. And he's the first one to, like, follow through on that and actually, like, tell his family, hey, I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah. I'm working late. I'm not getting overtime.
Like, he's not the kind of guy. He's like, hey, everyone's gonna stay, and then he leaves and goes home. He's 100%. He's the last one there every single time. Like, he puts in just as much or more effort than anyone else there, and he just expects you to, like, try to keep up.
Yeah. And it's also nice that he always has his employees back. He's like, yeah, no, these are, like, he brings Catherine into, like, the Pentagon meeting. He's like, well, yeah, these are your numbers, and you can explain them the best. And, like, you not being in the meeting is actively slowing us down, so you can go in the meeting.
He also doesn't have Catherine arrested for breaking security protocols.
Yeah.
Also that, yeah, that's
He
cool.
just goes, are you a Russian spy? No? All right, cool. There's not an issue here. Give her security clearance.
I love her responses. To, are you a Russian spy? She goes, I'm not Russian. Why would I be a Russian spy?
Yeah, fair question. Fair
Why would I
answer.
be a Russian spy?
Exactly.
She says no first and then clarifies she's
Oh,
not
yeah.
Russian. That's important.
Yeah, it is important, but I love her reaction to that. Was just complete shock and disbelief that they would even have to ask.
I mean, for their part, they're like, hey, you have all this confidential information. She's like, yeah, because you suck at redacting things.
Yeah,
I held the paper up to the light and I could see through your marker.
like they tried to like, well, if you know all this, how'd you know about the name Atlas? Like trying to catch her in a lie, and she's like, I mean, I just showed it to the light because you guys suck.
That's one of those things that just like ended up cascading up to the actual Pentagon, where they're like, "Wait, how did nobody know this?"
Yeah.
How did no one notice that we're not fully blocking out things?
What do you recommend we do? Darker ink. I don't know. Do it.
But also, real dick move on Paul, because no one told him he needed to redact that. That wasn't like an order he got from, what's his name?
Harrison.
Harrison. That was not an order he got from Harrison. He just went, oh no, I don't want her to know those things, so I'm going to just claim that it's classified.
I mean, it probably is still just
yeah.
part of security protocol.
It definitely was classified and she did not have that clearance yet.
They gave her the clearance when she walked in the door.
There's different levels of clearance. Like,
I mean, I
within
guess
that
that's
room.
true.
But to be
Yeah.
fair, if they're like, hey, you need to check this work, but if it's like half of it's classified,
Yeah, no, it
she
was
can't
dumb.
check the work. Why give her that job if she can't do it?
Well, I mean, I don't know how to tell you this about
Yes, I
1960s
understand what
America.
I've just said. But, like, in that particular situation, like, yeah, that was absolutely just a dick move for him to just Because I can guarantee you he blocked out stuff that didn't need to be blacked out.
Yeah, he definitely did. He
But
was like,
also-
just read around it.
Also, the most like impressive part about that and what they had that whole meeting about was like, hey, he absolutely just blacked out like half the stuff you needed. How did you still get this done? Like, how goddamn impressive is it that they tell you to do something and then go, I'm not gonna give them the stuff they need to do it, and then she turns around and has it anyway, and then they have to go, hold on, we need to have a meeting about why she was able to do this.
Baller move.
You thought you could stop me by not giving me the information? Joke's on you, I already had the information.
No, she deduced the information, which is even more incredible. And they just assume that, like, hold on, the fact you're able to do this, you have to have inside information on this. You have to be a spy. So they have this whole interrogation about it, and she just goes, nah, math works.
Yeah.
Math is math.
Math is math. And the one thing that they go, oh, well, maybe you could have figured out the math, but what about this piece of information that you shouldn't know, the atlas? And she just goes, I mean, it's just shine it in the light.
Y'all just
And
suck at redacting shit.
I just love that he immediately goes, it holds it up to the light, and goes, God damn it. All right.
Fair enough. Free to go.
Yeah, because, like, at the same time, of like, obviously they're in the middle of the Cold War, because that's, like, this was just a big part of the culture back then, was just, like, the Red Scare. Like,
Yeah.
everyone was terrified out of their minds of Russia. And so, like, the fact that their first thought of why does she have this information was not, hey, maybe, you know, there's some kind of security breach in some form or manner. They just immediately went, she's a spy.
Imagine being so good at your job, someone thinks you're a spy.
I mean, also they're too paranoid. They're like, hey, they got satellites in space. They're going to nuke us. They have rockets coming.
Yeah.
Go.
They're listening to us with Sputnik.
Yeah. Who
They've
knows
got-
what they're looking
They've
at?
got a satellite up there. Bombs are gonna follow. That's how it works.
It's the natural progression of things.
That's how America works. What are you talking about?
Like I said, the natural progression of things.
This is how the world works.
Something manifests destiny. Anyway.
Can we get a soundbite of that?
I'd rather not.
It was just the frequency graph of just whoop.
It's an electric car taking off.
And this is an example of the Doppler effect.
So I did want to talk about some of the good like movie making things that happened.
Okay.
And I really had a good way, like, that sentence was going to be so eloquent and I just lost it halfway through.
Good.
You know, the nice good movie making things. So there are two instances where Catherine is dramatically handed chalk, and I thought they were like real nice. It's not like a motif, but like a visual callback to like, hey, we're like giving her what she needs to succeed in an area where she normally would not. So like there's the first one, and these are like almost mirrored shots. The first one is as a kid when she's bumped up like 2 grades, like the teacher calls on her and hands her the chalk, and they really linger on the shot of like the teacher's hand and her hand and the chalk. And then she goes up to the board and solves the equation. All the 8th graders like, what? Which, I mean, understandable. This child came up and did this very complex math and explained it to you, and they clearly didn't get it. And then the next one was as an adult when she's presenting her math to like the Pentagon meeting. They have like the same shot, except it's Harrison giving her the chalk this time. So I thought that was a real cool parallel there.
Yeah, that was That was really cool. Even without like the callback, that was still like a really significant moment, but it's just emphasized more by the fact that that was a callback as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that that led to John Glenn eventually asking for her to do the like final math on the landing site.
Can I just say, good guy John Glenn out here.
Yeah, for real. This is the fucking Captain America of the 60s.
He is like the best.
He shows
Sorry.
up to NASA. Hold on.
Captain America of the 60s? You mean Captain America?
Nah, he was frozen.
He wasn't there.
Yeah, he was frozen in the 40s.
Ah, damn.
Good try, though. In the comics, there was one in Captain America Comedy Smasher, but then he was crazy. Like, they... So, we're going to come back to John Glenn real quick. So, after, World War II ended, they kept making Captain America comics, but the Nazis were no longer his enemies. So, like, we have to give him something else. Communists. So he was rebranded as Captain America Comedy Smasher, and it was not super popular, and so they eventually just kind of stopped making them.
I wonder why it wasn't popular.
Anyway, it's a couple, decades go by, and they're like, hey, Captain America, he was frozen in ice. That's why he wasn't in comics, and now he's in the Avengers. But they retconned it so he was frozen in ice after World War II, and so the guy who was running around as Captain America was still canon. It was a different guy who was a really big Captain America fan who got plastic surgery to make himself look like Steve Rogers, and then the government gave him his own shield and costume, except he went crazy, and so like, yeah, no, we're just not gonna do this, and so they fired him.
Amazing.
So John Glenn.
So John
John
Glenn,
Good
Glenn.
guy
the good
John
Captain
Glenn.
America of the 60s. This guy is like, he's like the perfect like he has modern sensibilities and stuff. He shakes hands with all of like the white people in NASA, and then he sees like all the black women off to the side, and he's like, I'm gonna go shake hands with them too. And he does. He shakes hands with all three of our main characters, and then gets ushered away. But like throughout the entire movie, well, for all the parts he's in, he's like never racist. He's always like kind and supportive. He tells jokes in the Pentagon meeting.
Yeah.
Like, he's not there for any of the math or anything. He's just like, hey, I'm the guy they're putting in space. I'm here. I'm just gonna make funnies and be charming. That's it. That's all he does.
He's the guy who said, like, and he specifically said the joke as a way to, like, break the tension.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, he had that joke just on hand, ready to just be like, all right, cool. I'm just gonna just make this.
Yeah. She rattles off all this, like, crazy conversion. Like, she does all the math for the landing location or whatever, and then she converts that from, like, feet to miles to latitude, longitude in her head. And then there's this silence where all of the, like, Pentagon guys are staring at her, and then he's just like, I like your numbers.
They're good numbers.
Now, those are some good numbers.
So I can confirm, according to IMDb, he did ask for Catherine, like in real life, John Glenn asked for Catherine to double check the landing site, but it was not the day of. It took her 3 days to do the calculations.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, that was one thing that
That is
I
so
was
much math.
100% positive was they made these calculations like, oh, she's the only one that can do them in like 5 minutes, and she's the only one who's capable of doing this math, and it's like, no, it takes a long time to do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's way less, like, it's not as interesting if it's like, all right, yeah, give her the math, and then 3 days later she comes back, she's like, yeah, the numbers are good. It's much more interesting if it's like, oh, there's a ticking clock. He's on his way to the rocket right now. The entire nation is waiting on these calculations. And then she does them. She has to run back to the, like, mission room and give them the math. Can you imagine if they did that scene and it was just like, all right, yeah, it works. Okay.
also, real dick move on the guy who ran the papers over to her, because he runs the papers over there, hands them to her, she does the calculations, and then goes, well, come on. And then she ends up running over there with him. He makes her take the papers with her. He doesn't take them from her. And then they get to the door. She hands the papers off, and then he goes inside and leads her out. Like, why did you make her come? Did you just make her carry the papers over here for no reason? You knew she wasn't going to be able to come in.
Yeah, it's also really funny because like when she does the calculation, she finishes it, she like leans back, and then he just kind of stares at her like, well, aren't you gonna pick up the calculations and take them back? Like, motherfucker, you're the only one who actually is supposed to be in that room with those calculations. You take them.
Yeah. It was a super dick move. I mean,
It's nice that she got in after that, but like as far as he knew, he ran those over for her to do. She did them, and then he just stood there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even the one to like let her in. It was
Harrison.
Who like also weirdly enough just had an extra badge on him. Did you notice that?
It was probably still hers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he
From
just
before.
carried it in his own pocket?
He probably just didn't throw it away.
This was
Well,
this
because you
was-
can't just throw away a security clearance badge. You
I
gotta,
know,
like,
but this was not the same day.
I like to imagine that it's his, and he just went. They know I'm supposed to be in here. They don't know she's supposed to be in here.
They can't
so I'm
kick me
gonna
out.
give her my key card, or like my security card, because they know I'm supposed to be in here, but they don't know she's supposed to be in here. So this way she gets clearance.
Gotcha.
See,
I
that-
guess that makes sense. I just thought it was really funny. It was like, why do you just have another one?
That's a much nicer explanation. Mine was like he took that guy's card and gave it to her.
You know, that'd be
I like that
100%
one
fair
better.
and justice. That'd be justified.
Yeah, it's like, all right, now you can't leave again because they will not let you back in. It's what you get.
I do also want to point out there's one line that they added in here where Harrison says that Catherine was able to calculate the landing to 4 decimals of precision, which was more than the machine could do.
I thought you just said more.
He just said more.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's completely false. The machine could do 16 decimals of precision,
Oh, wow.
and she did 4.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, also, they clarified they were using the Euler method, which is entirely an estimation anyway. So every digit, like every additional digit, would just be that much more work you have to do. And if it's already going to take you 3 days to do it, yeah, that's... like, why would you spend extra time being more accurate when... if you think about like 4 decimal places in there is already like way tighter of a figure than like human ability is gonna be, because this is based on his timing, the pilot, like John
Yeah.
Glenn's
Yeah,
timing.
he's doing this by hand.
Like, okay, you could have 1,000,000 digits. It doesn't matter if he can't hit the first 3. So yeah, doing 4 decimals is totally fine.
But it does read better for the movie if she's more accurate than the machine.
Oh, it's absolutely better for the movie. Just like how long it takes, but, you know. Movie realism and actual realism usually don't even align.
Yeah.
There was also something listed in the goofs on IMDb that said it doesn't matter what book Dorothy read on Fortran, she would not have been able to walk into that room and fix the machine. And I'm like, well, no, duh.
Yeah. It's like, excuse me, there's no book that you can read that you just be like, yes. And then go and do, like, CNC machining on something you've never done.
On the one hand, she did only move one thing. So I feel like those guys just read the manual wrong.
Yeah. That's definitely how it came off.
Like, she literally walked in, she's like, well, that's in the wrong spot. And that was it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it. But my other question is, why did someone at IMDb, god damn it.
IBM?
IBM. I'm so tired. Someone at a group of people at IBM made this machine, right? Either they have no clue how to operate the thing that they designed and made, or they just went, here's a thing, NASA can figure it out.
I mean, instruction manuals are actually very hard to write.
I mean, yes, but also usually those kind of things, like if you're paying, I assume this is millions of dollars even back then, Like, you're paying so much money for this. You're also gonna pay the relatively trivial amount of money to have a professional come out and not only install it, but teach your employees how to operate it. You're not just gonna deliver this via UPS and just go, figure it out.
That seems like a lot of forethought for a company that didn't make sure their doors were big enough to house the computers.
We need a double door.
See, that's exactly why they needed IBM, because NASA didn't have the forethought.
Yeah, they didn't have the forethought to hire that service from IBM. They bought the computers, like, yeah, that's good enough.
We'll
They'll
figure it out. We're
yeah.
NASA.
They'll fit.
It's wild to me that they sold a product to NASA and just went,
They're smart.
like, this is not something that just like everyone already knows how to do. Like, this is a brand new machine that's like state of the art computer. No, it requires you to have like hole punches in the right spot in a piece of paper.
Yeah. Also, like a team of 30 people to operate, apparently.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, could you imagine how many people it would take to punch all those holes in the right spots?
I'm so glad I don't have to program on a piece of paper.
Me too.
Yeah, it's not even like writing on a piece of paper either.
Yeah.
It's poking holes in a piece of paper
Well, no.
and then running it through.
Because you would write the code on paper, and then someone else's job was to actually punch the holes.
Well, okay, yes, but the
Both of those jobs don't sound good.
yeah, and then you have another person who runs it through the machine and then takes the output and then has to like transcribe that onto other pieces of paper, because you're not going to carry around this like scroll of paper fill the calculations and stuff. You're just gonna like, you gotta transcribe it. There's a lot of stuff that needed to happen there.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was also taught in like my first computer science class was that it's dumb that the computer science division now is dominated by men, because it literally started with women being all the programmers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's how a lot of things go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Heather, any input?
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Thanks, Heather. Back to you, Josh. So another real good movie making thing. In the scene with Dorothy and Mary Jane from Spider-Man, I don't remember the fucking name of the character.
Okay, I'm glad that wasn't just me. I could not see anything else.
It's just blonde Mary Jane from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Anyway, in the scene between them in the bathroom, they have this really neat like shot reverse shot thing where they're standing next to each other, but they're looking at each other's reflections in the mirror, and so you still get the over the shoulder shot because their eye lines line up in the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can still do the shot reverse shot even though neither of them are looking at each other and they're both standing next to each other looking forward. I thought that was a really cool
Cinematography thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
I also liked it. It was a really good shot.
There's also a kind of neat scene, be like, you know, hey, I'm gonna be like kind and courteous to you by like, you know, just hanging out with you, make small talk. I'm gonna hand you your paper towel, all that, but I'm still gonna call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was
Oh,
a nice moment of growth for everyone. Kirsten Dunst's character was like, hey, you know, I'm not actually mean. And then, like, she's clearly trying to, like, be friendlier. But at the same time, she's still actually not.
Yeah.
And she gets called out on that, which is also nice.
Can we talk about the music a little bit?
I quite enjoyed the music.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It was
great.
real good.
It was very intermittent. Like, it was only for like transitional scenes.
It was, like, mostly semi-diegetic, which is cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of jazz. And it was kind of was some modern stuff in there too, which I thought was interesting
Yeah,
because
it was camouflaged pretty well.
Yeah.
it was like, this is definitely not 60s. But you know what? Sounds good, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
A lot of the lyrics were just kind of about space for some reason. It's like, okay, uh-huh.
They just went, what songs have space in it? Got it. This one.
But yeah, no, it was a real good soundtrack. I really like that the was he a colonel? What was the
Yeah, it was a colonel.
was a colonel? Like I really like his story is like really funny to me because we only see like parts of it. It skips ahead through so much time. So it's like, all right, they meet and they have a bad first impression. Then they meet again later and he apologizes. And then they go on like a date and then they're engaged.
And then they're married.
Yeah.
Like, his character development happens so much off screen, it's absolutely jarring every time we see him. It's like, hold on, how much has happened?
Like, I understand that his storyline is not the focal point of the movie and it's not like a romance first and foremost, but it's funny to the point that it's almost like they included him specifically as like a, hey, her name changes near the end of the movie and we need to explain that.
Yeah, like, her kids are in like 3 scenes, I think. Her family life is such a small portion of this movie. It's just to be like, yeah, she had one.
Yeah, some things happen in her family and that's like we can't ignore it, so we will include them as much as we have to.
Also, I want to say that they imply that, like, Colonel Johnson, I guess. I don't remember what his first name
Yeah.
was.
His name is Johnny?
Jim.
Jimmy?
It's Jim.
Jim.
Jim Johnson.
Jim Johnson.
Jimmy Johns.
That's what I
Jimmy
was
John.
thinking. Jimmy John.
But I like how it's just implied that, Jim was just like helping take care of her kids for a long portion of time, because there's the scene where he proposes, and the kids are like, they already know everything that's happening.
They knew the script.
Not only that, but they knew like Jim's life story.
I think that was part of the script.
Like, well, yeah, but they also like clearly have spent a lot of time with this guy.
Well, I should hope so. He's marrying their mom.
I mean, yeah, but just based on what we've seen in the movie,
Yeah,
it
that
seems
was all
a little
off
jarring, because it goes. The previous scene was him apologizing for being sexist.
I also really like that there is not a single point where he shows up in the movie where someone's not actively like shipping them.
Yeah.
Like he appears
Yeah.
he appears like in the scene where they go to church and he looks at her and she's not looking and she looks at him and he's not looking. And then everyone immediately decides, all right, so we're matchmaking this, right?
Yeah.
Are we
We're gonna
Like-
call him over, and then we're gonna conveniently leave for cake.
Yeah. I mean, top-notch women. But, like, everyone just unanimously and wordlessly agrees, hey, these two, they need to be a couple. We're going to make this happen.
Yeah, it was so funny.
And, I mean, it works, so good job, everyone.
I will say it did just feel so weird and awkward every time his character was on screen, though.
Yeah.
A little
That-
bit.
That script for the proposal was real creepy at some points.
It's creepy when you apply, like, a realistic lens to it. It's, like, as he is telling it, he's definitely telling a romanticized, like, embellished version where he,
Yeah.
like, he meets her and then immediately calls his mother and says, I met the woman I want to marry.
Yeah.
And as I said during the movie, if you meet someone and immediately like say I'm gonna marry this person, and like they're not just somebody, they're everything, or they're not just something, they're everything, you're an absolute psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, I get there's like whatever, love at first sight, but that's beyond that. That's like, go get some help.
See, but he's also in the military.
Yeah, which is why when he like makes his apology, he's like, "Yeah, sorry, I was out of practice." I was like, "Yeah, he's not used to talking to people like in a normal kind of way." He's still like he messed up, and I'm not excusing his like overt sexism, but also, yeah, no, he didn't know how to words.
He don't words good.
Yeah, but he learned the words better. So anyway, Star Wars Visions, right?
Hey.
I haven't seen any of them.
Gosh, you need to.
Yeah. I was not prepared for them all to drop on the same day.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a weekly thing.
Yeah, me too.
Man, if it had been weekly. That second episode.
Yeah, that is a thing.
If it had been weekly, I would have gone to bed on time yesterday.
Same. I stayed up way later than I wanted to.
But I think it was worth it.
Oh, it was
Absolutely.
definitely worth it. I loved all of it. Even episode 2. But to a slightly
What's
less
wrong
degree.
with episode 2?
It's
weird.
not bad. It's just
Yeah. It doesn't
it's the
fit
least good of the episodes.
Why are we talking about this on the podcast?
because we always have to include Star Wars.
Okay, but
Star Wars takes place in space, which is where they were trying to
I
go.
was going to say, there has to be a connection.
The connection is space.
But there wasn't a segue or anything.
No.
It was real.
Segways
abrupt.
haven't been invented yet.
Are we sure about that?
When
in
were
the
segways?
60s.
I think it's possible.
When were segways invented?
We went to the moon. You think we couldn't have segways yet?
Yeah.
Did you see what they went to the moon in?
I don't know.
Do you know what battery technology was back then?
Aside from bad, no.
You had lead acid batteries, and that's it.
Okay, so I need everyone to guess when segways were invented.
The 80s.
1996.
I was gonna say 95.
2001.
What?
Wow. Honestly, my guess was 2000, so I'm like, that can't be right.
What month?
I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, just
Heather.
Why did you... You didn't even have to say it. You just made me feel bad.
I want to know.
When did Paul Blart come out?
How did you get to that line of thinking?
Please, I need to know.
Doesn't he drive a Segway?
Yeah, those two things are, like, linked in my mind. You cannot unchain
Mall
Paul Blart,
cops.
Mall Cop from Segways.
Okay, well, segways I don't think really became popular until probably 2008 or to 10, maybe probably. I don't know.
So, the first patent was 94.
Ooh, that was close.
It wasn't granted until 97. But it wasn't until October 2001 that they were like actually like done
Made.
and made.
Yeah.
Hey, so Josh,
Yeah?
you said Segways didn't get popular until, like, 2008, 2010? Do you want to guess when Paul Blart Mall Cop came out?
2007.
Yeah, sure.
It's 2009. You didn't guess, but that's okay. Exactly. Boom.
Man, that's weird. My memory's usually a lot worse than that.
Paul Blart
So-
comes out, then the next year, Segways, insanely popular. Coincidence? Probably not.
So this says that the Segway, like capital S Segway
The brand.
brand, was unveiled on December 3rd, 2001.
Okay.
What is the name of those things that we call Segways?
Hoverboards.
Oh yeah, the hoverboard.
Is that... No, No, because the hoverboard is the name of the thing without the handlebars, where it's just the two wheels and the foot pedal
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the thing with the handlebars is a Segway.
that's what it's called.
Right, but like it's... You know how Velcro is a name brand and not the name of the stuff that we associate with the name Velcro?
Yeah, but because of the patents and everything,
Yeah,
like
they're-
it was just Segway.
Only Segway can make those.
Okay, fair enough. I thought maybe it was just like the brand name for an item that could be made by someone else, but
No,
okay.
they're just Segways.
I
Oh,
also
that's nice and
I have
tidy.
to say, according to the Segway Wikipedia site, Steve Jobs was quoted as saying that Segways were as big a deal as the PC.
Oh man, I love it when
You
people
were
in the past are
wrong.
wrong about shit.
He later retracted it, saying it sucked.
Wow, that is the biggest backpedal I have
Wow.
ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
People think he was referring to the design when he said that, but he actually commented about the boutique price of the Segway.
I mean, that's fair, I guess.
Bruh.
I just love when people in the past are wrong. Like, everyone who was like, oh man, video games are a fad. It's all about board games. Kids are going to get like bored with video games in like 2 years, and then they'll just be back to board games. Like, can you imagine being that wrong about like anything?
I don't even play board games.
Board games are fun.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
like,
alright.
I just don't play them.
We just watched an entire show about chess.
I didn't.
True.
It
your
was
loss.
not about chess.
It
I
heavily involved chess.
Yeah.
I just don't really care.
It's centered around chess.
They can't show 30 seconds of chess.
They showed several. They showed several minutes of
When
chess,
it
just
counted.
not so that one specific
That one
instant.
was when it counted.
Okay. You're moving the goalposts, Josh. Just like America.
That's gonna get cut. No one has any idea what we're talking
I mean,
about.
he is American.
I mean, the Queen's Gambit was pretty popular. I feel like they could have put that together. How many other shows about chess are there?
I mean, there's an anime about chess.
Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Is that a show?
It was a movie.
That doesn't count.
Anyway,
There was another Netflix show about chess. It was about like a kid who was autistic and yeah.
so
That's
Hidden
still
Figures.
the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, it is, but it's different. It was different.
So Hidden Figures. Also, I just love this title.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
think
title.
It's a good title.
Yeah.
Also, for the longest time, I misremembered it as significant figures.
Yeah, me too.
Which is just also a math term, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like Hidden Figures, and it I will say it like fits a little bit better because obviously they're
oh yeah, no,
they're hidden in their background, but they're like they're just the backbone of what's keeping this thing going.
yeah, it's a much better title than the one I accidentally made up.
No,
Yeah.
that's also the one that I accidentally thought of when I first learned of it, because that's what I searched for when I was trying to look at it. But because it's a much more popular term, and I think it would have been, pretty good
I
as
think
far
popular
as
is a strong word.
I knew what they were.
significant figures or hidden figures.
Significant figure.
Well, yeah,
I mean, even so,
because you learned all that in like high school.
which was not very long ago for you.
Shut.
But anyway, I was like, it could have been called significant figures because they were very significant, to the success of this project.
And they made that like error about like decimal points at the end.
Yeah. So it really could have been significant figures.
I feel like if they made it significant figures, people would have thought it was about math and they wouldn't have watched it.
Like the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, but people watch the Queen's Gambit.
You mean it? It wasn't about math.
Josh, did they show 30 seconds of math?
Yes.
They showed a significant amount of math.
Yeah, they'd also showed a significant amount of chess, but guess what? Queen's Gambit, not about chess.
Look, you can't spend an entire episode like hyping up a certain match just to have it end with the first pawn placement. I am sorry. I will forever be upset about that.
They,
Josh is so salty today.
it's his sinuses. They're full of salt.
Yeah.
So, we watched this on Disney Plus, and as it ended, like the promo came up for another movie you should watch, which was The Right Stuff, which is the story of John Glenn and how, like those guys got to like their training and stuff. Do you think any of the characters from Hidden Figures, aside from obviously like John Glenn and the other astronauts, show up in that movie?
It's possible that Catherine would show up since John and Catherine are like directly, like they had somewhat of a relationship and knew each other.
Yeah, but
But I don't know.
Everyone else
Did they?
probably not.
He called her the smart one.
Well, but he did, again, in real life, John Glenn did specifically ask for Catherine to do the
Yeah.
math on the landing.
Yeah.
He knew enough about her to know that she was the math one who was like important to him not dying.
She's the smart one. I want her doing the calculations.
But yeah, I just interesting that Disney has both movies that are sort of unrelated but historically related. I wonder if there's any like crossover.
Were they directed by the same person?
I
or-
Well, no, one
Don't
of
think
them's a
so at all.
documentary.
Yeah. Like they're not at all actually
Hold
like
on, only one of them was a documentary?
The one about John Glenn's a documentary.
yeah, this is a biographical film. Not the same.
Oh,
They're
okay.
very
I
different.
didn't know there was a difference.
Yeah.
But still though, it'd be interesting to see like to watch that movie and see if there's any crossover.
Yeah.
I feel like a documentary, it like just based on what I know of documentaries versus, I guess, what was it, a biographical film?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm guessing documentaries probably have like narrator and stuff like that.
Yeah. But
Okay.
at the same time, the conceit behind the name Hidden Figures is that they were kind of erased from history. Or they're at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
not like spotlighted, so
Yeah. Well, like I feel like a documentary would be more likely to include information such as the existence of Catherine.
I mean
You
yeah,
would think.
you would think.
You know, because they don't have like a story that they need to tell.
I
They're
mean
just-
documentaries still tell stories.
Well, I mean, like, they don't have like, they're not producing a film in the same way as what this movie was.
Yeah.
They
But I
don't
mean
need like character development and all that stuff. They're just retelling history.
well, I mean sort of. Like they're definitely not gonna like embellish things or like switch up who says what or give someone's moment to someone else. But I mean documentaries are still edited to tell a cohesive story. So they're including the parts that they feel are relevant and they're excluding the parts that they want to exclude. So
Gotcha.
it's entirely
Okay.
possible that someone could have just excluded all of her parts from his story there.
Ah, I see.
But there's no way to find out unless we watch that movie or read a synopsis, which is more likely to happen.
Well, that's not happening tonight.
I didn't say tonight,
I'm dying.
as we've established.
I'm dying a little faster today than normal.
Well, I'm gonna need you to hold out at least long enough to like get this episode mastered. Also, maybe tell someone else how to do that.
Oh yeah,
So, final thoughts.
I love the movie. It was really good. And you know, I learned a lot about these real people. I honestly didn't know, other than just I knew that this person existed. Like I learned a lot about like these people who in real life actually did these things.
I enjoyed this movie. It was very good. I'm very glad that they didn't take a lot of like liberty with the story and that they mostly told it as is with like obviously some creative touches to make it more interesting, but I'm glad that they stuck mostly to reality in terms of what happened and what was going on and the situations that they were in, and I just enjoyed it. It was a good movie.
Yeah, I really liked the movie too. The first time watching it through, I was like, wow, I didn't know any of these people existed. It's great that we actually get to learn about it. And now, the second time through, I learned that your starter can't just stop your car.
Don't get him started again.
Well, we're in the middle. He can't get started now. We're already on the road.
Anyway, check out our Facebook, and we're on YouTube.
Yeah. Anywhere you find podcasts, I'm sure you found this somewhere. So keep finding it there. Find it other places too. Leave a comment, like, comment, subscribe. All of that stuff. Anyway, this has been HQ Movie Reviews. I'm Jack.
I'm Josh.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Heather.
Thanks for listening. Good night, everybody.
I feel really bad that during the movie that was mostly about historical black women in power, we just went off on so many tangents. But I also feel like that's very representative of America.
That's not funny.